out there. And that's what you're giving to people, even though you don't know that you're giving it because of consciousness. Does that make sense?
Yes, and what a gift. Like, holy cow, what a gift. Yeah.
So we just have to be careful with what we do with it. And if you don't know what you're going to, it's like that Alice in Wonderland story, you know. So here's Alice, down the rabbit hole, and she comes to this cross in the road here, and she's trying to decide, do I go left or do I go right? And so here is the Cheshire cat sitting on the limb up above her, and she's mumbling to herself, I don't know which way to go here. And so the Cheshire cat says, well, if you don't know which direction you want to go, why does it matter which way that you're going to go? Take either path, And so that's when we can go and we can kind of explore. It's the same thing here. What are you going to do with the energy? And that's become the biggest question. So we know that the field exists and the consciousness is there, and the consciousness belongs to all of it. The bigger issue is, what are you going to do with it? So, like the energy master that, knocked the guy down, or the Huna master that healed the guy's leg. This energy is so powerful and so prevalent. The question is, what are you going to do with it?
Wow. Yeah, great question. And it's like, how about create our lives? How about create more consciousness? How about create more, like, be greater than we were yesterday, right?
Yeah. Well, and how about teaching that to other people? And I think
Absolutely.
That's one of the great things about Access Consciousness is you're doing that whether you know you're doing it or not, through the intention of what you put in there. But now that we kind of know what scientifically what the secrets are, then people can do that. They just need to focus, concentrate, and intend what they do. Be present in the moment.
Yeah. Dr. Fannin, if I only would have known years ago that what we observe, we affect. Like how much, and like you said, after 68 seconds being like having a certain thought or frequency energetically, right? And how many people have spent over 68 seconds feeling like a total bag of crap, depressed, and then we wonder why this is our life, right?
Exactly. Here's another thing to be thinking about, and that is when we look at what's called concert pitch, the frequencies. When I did some studies on solfeggio frequencies, and that's a longer story for another day.
Well, yes, I read about that. Wow.
Yeah. So when we are looking at that frequency, and people feel more calm with 432 hertz. Unconditional love is really 528 hertz. But when the concert pitch was changed to 440 hertz, and I have a video of things that they're dealing with, where they did some experiments, and when you put sand like on a vibrating table, and you have the vibration, and with 440 hertz, the patterns are more diffused than at 432 hertz. They are more defined. So again, that gets back to what is the focus and the concentration in all of these things, and what we're doing with that. So we live in a world where there is a lot of distraction that's going on. What are we going to put our attention to? Are we going to be focused on the distractions, that keep coming in on our screen, telling us this, that, and the other thing? Or, I turn a lot of my notifications off because I don't want to be bothered with that.
Yep.
But we will give way to that frequency and that energy that is coming in to that distraction. By this, by that. If you don't get this, you're going to miss out. We've stopped being able to think for ourselves, and to utilize the power of this energy in our emotions and our feeling and how we're living in our world, because the distractions have gotten so big and so many of them that we find it very difficult to tune them out. So one of the things that I work with a lot of people on is dealing with changing those subconscious beliefs. And since the pandemic, we have all begun to build these walls around ourselves. what our identity is, who we think we are, who other people tell us we are, that sort of thing. And we're wandering around inside this room and wondering, why can't the world be different? And so we give in to all of these distractions that are going on, and that's what we're paying attention to. So it's, is it the book you read, or the video that you watch, or, the podcast that you listen to that helps us change? No, that's simply entertainment. What helps us change is adversity. So when we have some adversity and we're going to pay attention to that adversity, that's what's going to help us grow and to change. I'll throw something out in one of the coaching things that we do in these. When we go into order, for example, as human beings, we do not like change. We hate change. We, try to get away from change. But when we have order, that order, the vibration of the order is eventually going to erode to the point where you're going to end up with stagnation. Now, we all know people who have stagnated in their thinking and their feeling and that sort of thing. And so how do you change from being in stagnation to getting back to growing? And the issue is, you need to go into what's called complexity. And complexity is changing the variables like focus, concentration, and intention. What are you doing with that? So as you're doing that, you're creating this field of complexity, and now you are in a position where you can actually grow and develop. This is one of the unintended consequences that is happening with the bar's function. We don't know it at the time, but we are intending to focus, concentrate, and do something with that energy, with that field, like the Vibravision people, and being able to drive the go-karts and drop the colored beanbags and stuff. What are you going to do with your energy? And so I think one of the purest forms of that energy that I have experienced over my lifetime, having been doing this stuff for, going on 30 years here, is that energy that you have is something that you can work with if you choose to. Otherwise, what is the alternative? We're going to get sucked up into that order where we want things to stay the same. We don't want to change. But if we mix up the variables in that and say, okay, now I'm going to cause complexity or a little bit of disorder, if you will, to allow myself to grow. How do we grow from point A to point B, to be the best that we can be? And we have forgotten how to do this.
Well, and so well said. And it's so perfect timing for back in September. I thought I was a professional show jumper for horses, and fell off a horse, broke my arm in a couple places. And if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be not only sitting here with you, but I would never have chosen to do access bars for 44 days in a row, let alone all the other things that I'm creating in my life. So it's like what would it take to actually change without having to have a diagnosis, some sort of bad problem creep up, right? And that's the thing, we're just so comfortable with what we've
with order, keeping things the same way. So we can either force that change on ourselves, or it gets forced upon us. Like you say, riding a horse and breaking your arm. Now you change up the variables in all of that. And so whether you wanted the broken arm or not is not the issue. It changed the variables so that you could grow from that. Then the question is, once you go through this growth cycle, now what? What are you going to do with that growth that you have achieved? So how much growth is enough? And I think that's part of the universe. This is part of that whole issue with consciousness, that we are